morsel. Nestled inside fallen oak rest three of kin, petite in size even for children. The younglings grumbled, each with peck, simultaneously sure to retract vulnerable neck. Alone at night, their mother gone, frosted glades below stood still as fawn. Perched as high as winters go, the children huddled toe to toe. Snowdrops passed during moon's set, blurring sightline of imminent threat. They thought they heard, they thought they saw, unassured, until a drop of jaw. Below, siblings look. The trio peered down the nook. At the trunk of their oak, on the foot of the root, was a fanged, star-gazing brute. Tight in path of view they shook, and soon were halfway closer to the crook. A flash of heat in the coldest of nights breathed glistening glee from pearly whites. Prodding their abode, the beast, black as coal, with his fat, crooked instruments, he stole one of the panicked children. He tore limb from limb, its flesh his tongue wore. Squawking, quaking, pleading for mom to come, had only cemented the youngling's fate as done. Adulthood never to arrive, a life lived entirely inside confines of a nest once sweet, covered now in remains of predator's treat. A hard-working mother, searching for food this night, returned to nest, no children in sight. The pangs of agony and anxious hoot were met by the dripping silence of the mute. A life, moments ago, with the purpose of provision, dismantled irreparably by mange and mirrored decision. This way.
Victor Bras speaking with you at Victor Bras Art and Culture. Today, I'm going to be tackling a different subject than what we've dealt with so far. We've dealt with the COVID lockdowns, we've dealt with the vaccines, dealt with the question of ownership and land and economics and all those wonderful subjects across the board. But today we're going to be speaking with a gentleman. If you, please, sir, would introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Chris Elston, sometimes known as Billboard Chris.
Billboard Chris, as we see right here.
Yep.
Now, I'm just going to ask you a very broad question, sir, right across the board. Can you
Sure.
tell me what it is that you're presenting to here today as something that you see as very problematic, and what are you espousing? What are you in conviction of?
Yeah, so I'm just having conversations with people about the harm coming to kids when we prescribe them puberty-blocking drugs and then cross-sex hormones. Because what we're seeing today is a transgender craze, particularly seducing our daughters. We've seen about a 4,000% increase in the amount of young girls who are now presenting with gender dysphoria or rapid onset gender dysphoria. It's kind of a new thing. And we're rushing kids into medical treatment. So with no questions asked, when they go into the gender clinics at the children's hospitals, they are prescribed a drug called Lupron, which is being prescribed to them off-label. It was never intended for this purpose. It was originally intended to treat prostate cancer in men, and then it was given approval to treat endometriosis in women. But this drug is being prescribed to kids because it totally stops puberty from happening. And when that happens, these kids always go on to the next step, which is the opposite sex hormones. And we're sterilizing kids. A lot of these girls, young women, have to get their uterus removed after several years on testosterone because their uterus has suffered so much atrophy. A lot of these kids, if just left to their own devices, and if they're allowed to go through puberty, their gender dysphoria would go away. At least 4 out of 5 of these kids, every study shows, their dysphoria would just go away. And a lot of these kids would actually discover that they're gay. So what we're doing is we're transing away the gay in these kids. We're doing kind of a weird form of conversion therapy. And we're not letting these kids grow up. We're destroying all their future sexual function. They're never going to be able to have kids. It's causing all sorts of medical harm, increase of blood clots, lack of bone density, cognitive function, lack of height, growth. all sorts of issues.
Now, when you cite all of these things and everything
Yep.
that you have said
Yep.
in presenting your case, are you throwing your weight behind an ethical argument or making a legal activism or political activism, or both for that matter?
This is an ethical argument, I guess. We're hurting kids. We're hurting kids, and it's primarily girls. And we're teaching them lies in school about gender. We're teaching them that it's stereotypes that determine their gender and that they can just change sex and that all their problems and anxiety and issues are just going to go away if we transition them.
And what are some of the forms of activism that you have taken, and are you a part of like any other affiliation of people that feel as you do?
Yeah, I've got thousands of supporters in different organizations that support me, and sometimes we work together on some issues. But I'm just traveling city to city throughout Canada. This is my home city, but I've just been back from a few trips, and I'm just going around Canada having conversations with people, peaceful conversations, to make them aware of what's going on, because the media won't report on any of this.
Naturally, of course.
Yeah.
They're filled with slime balls.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting, and that's why I'm glad that you're speaking with me to support, by speaking with me, independent media that's getting the truth out there, where the mainstream media, slime and corrupt as they are not getting across.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned, like, we're speaking of volunteerism in the respect of individual rights, consent as the ethical foundation here, and there's a legal case to be made for that as well. What is some of the opposition that you came across? You mentioned off camera an encounter with Antifa. Do I understand
I've had
that
a couple encounters with Antifa. I was actually arrested here, right here at the art gallery on October 24th, after getting assaulted by Antifa types, whatever you want to call them. The police arrested me, said I was causing a disturbance, even though I was the one that got assaulted. And just a couple weeks ago, Crown Counsel finally got around to reviewing the charges. And of course they dismissed them because they don't have a leg to stand on. And I videoed the whole thing too. So this is my first day back at the art gallery. I've been banned from all the streets around here for 5 months. And now I'm allowed back here. And so I'm going to keep coming back here, having conversations.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going
as
to keep
far as
traveling the country.
the last thing I know, that this is a public property
That's
right
right.
here, right? You pay taxes, right?
That's right.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
This is a public square. But you speak of some of the opposition. Just a couple weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I was in Montreal, on the busiest street in Montreal, Rue St. Catherine, or St. Catherine Street. 7 p.m. on a Friday night, another man had come out with me to support, and I was the victim of a premeditated attack where 5 or 6 guys, including one woman, suddenly mobbed me, ripped the signs off me, took my body cam, punched me in the face, punched me in the back of the head. As I was retreating away, a guy picked up a large traffic cone, which I wasn't too worried about because it's just a plastic traffic cone, but the base is pretty thick and dense, I guess, and he kept swinging it at me, and unfortunately I got my arm broken here.
Well, I'm sorry to hear you, sir.
God bless you, man.
Yeah.
You got
Hey,
balls
thank you,
to be
sir.
out here in this atmosphere. So
Thanks, brother.
right on.
Thank you for the
fully
support.
agree with you, and it's fucking child abuse.
That's right.
Right on.
Excellent. There you go. Well, as you can clearly see, where this gentleman has faced some horrific criminal activity and been the victim of outrageous behavior of people who have the pomposity and audacity to present themselves as some kind of humanitarians for the greater good. It's ridiculous. That's actually where you do find the majority of people, I think, who feel as this gentleman does. So I do want to thank you for speaking with me today. My name is Victor Pross,
Thanks.
signing out.
Appreciate it.
Cops, the good guys, they're here to help you. They're here to help us, like the government is here to help us, because the government loves us. We're like its children.